The Golden Compass. In a world not quite like our own, where people's souls walked beside them in animal form, young Lyra Belacqua scrambled through the sun-dappled courtyards of Jordan College, Oxford. Her daemon Pantalaimon flitted from shape to shape, a moth, a wildcat, a mouse mirroring her restless energy. The ancient stones of the college whispered secrets, and Lyra was determined to uncover them all. On this particular afternoon, the air thick with the scent of old books and polished wood, Lyra's curiosity led her to the forbidden territory of the master's retiring room. Pantalaimon, in the form of a moth, whispered urgent warnings in her ear. But Lyra pressed on, her heart pounding with excitement. "Hush, Pan," she whispered back, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "This is our chance to learn something real." As she slipped into the room, the rich aroma of wine and tobacco enveloped her. She had barely tucked herself away in a wardrobe when footsteps approached. Through a crack in the door, she watched as her uncle, the imposing Lord Asriel, strode in, followed by the master and other scholars. What Lyra witnessed in that room would change her life forever. Talk of dust, a mysterious elementary particle, a fantastic image of a city suspended in the northern lights, and a sinister plot that seemed to revolve around her uncle's expedition to the Arctic. But before Lyra could fully grasp the implications of what she'd heard, a new threat emerged. Children were disappearing from the streets of Oxford and other cities, snatched away by mysterious figures known as the Gobblers. Rumors flew thick and fast, each more terrifying than the last. It was in this atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that Lyra met Mrs. Coulter, a beautiful and charismatic woman, who offered to take Lyra to London as her assistant. The prospect of adventure was irresistible, and Lyra agreed, little knowing the true nature of the woman she was about to accompany. Before she left Jordan College, the master entrusted Lyra with a curious device, the alethiometer or golden compass. This intricate instrument, with its spinning needles and cryptic symbols, could answer any question truthfully, but only for those who knew how to read it. "Guard it well, Lyra," the master had said, his eyes grave, "and tell no one you have it." In London, Lyra found herself in a whirlwind of glittering parties and scientific discussions. Mrs. Coulter was everything Lyra had ever dreamed of: sophisticated, intelligent, and seemingly kind. But there was something off, a coldness behind the warm smiles, that made Pantalaimon bristle with unease. As the weeks passed, Lyra's initial excitement gave way to a growing sense of dread. She overheard conversations that didn't add up, saw documents that hinted at dark purposes, and always there was the alethiometer hidden away, but calling to her, its mysteries begging to be unraveled. One night, unable to sleep, Lyra crept into Mrs. Coulter's study. There, among the papers strewn across the desk, she found the truth she had been seeking, and it horrified her. Mrs. Coulter was the head of the General Oblation Board, the very gobblers who had been kidnapping children. Heart pounding, hands shaking, Lyra knew she had to escape. With Pantalaimon as a lookout, she fled into the night, the alethiometer clutched tightly to her chest. On the streets of London, cold and alone, Lyra found unexpected allies. The Gyptians, a nomadic people who traveled the canals, took her in. Among them, she learned more about the children who had been taken, including her best friend, Roger, and the Egyptian boy Billy Costa. Ma Costa, Billy's mother, held Lyra close, her voice thick with emotion. "You're a brave girl, Lyra, and you might be our only hope of getting our children back." With the Egyptians, Lyra journeyed north, towards the Arctic wastes, where the kidnapped children were said to be held. Along the way, she began to unlock the secrets of the alethiometer, her natural talent, allowing her to read its cryptic messages with increasing accuracy. Their journey was perilous, fraught with danger from both nature and those who sought to stop them. But Lyra's determination never wavered. She knew, with a certainty that came from somewhere deep within her, that she had a role to play in the events unfolding around her. In a bustling port town on the edge of the Arctic, Lyra encountered Auric Barneson, an armored bear in exile, once a proud warrior of his people. Auric had been tricked and cast out, his armor stolen. Lyra, with the help of the alethiometer, helped him reclaim his armor and his honor. Auric's massive form, gleaming in his reclaimed Skyran armor, was a sight to behold. His black eyes, filled with a fierce intelligence, met Lyra's gaze. "I am in your debt, Lyra Belacqua," he rumbled. "Where you go, I will follow." With Auric by her side, Lyra felt invincible. But greater challenges lay ahead. They learned of a research station in the far north, where terrible experiments were being conducted on children. Experiments that involved separating them from their daemons. The very thought made Lyra and Pantalaimon cling to each other in horror. To be separated from one's daemon was unthinkable, a fate worse than death. As they pressed further north, the landscape became increasingly alien and beautiful. Vast expanses of snow and ice stretched as far as the eye could see, broken only by jagged mountains and the occasional stunted tree. The aurora borealis danced across the sky, sheets of green and purple light that seemed to whisper of other worlds. It was under these ethereal lights that Lyra met Lee Scoresby, a Texan aeronaut with a sardonic wit and a heart of gold. His daemon Hester was a talking Arctic hare, who took an immediate liking to Pantalaimon. "Well, little lady," Lee drawled, tipping his hat to Lyra, "looks like you could use a lift. How about we take this show to the skies?" In Lee's balloon, they soared over the Arctic landscape, the world below, looking like a glittering tapestry of white and blue. But their journey was cut short by a sudden storm, forcing them to crashland in the territory of the witch clans. Here, Lyra encountered Seraphina Pecala, queen of one of the witch clans. Ageless and ethereally beautiful, Seraphina shared with Lyra prophecies of a child who would bring about great change. A child many believed to be Lyra herself. "Your path is hard, Lyra," Seraphina said, her green eyes seeming to peer into Lyra's very soul. "But you must be brave. The fate of more than just our world rests on your shoulders." As they finally approached the research station, Bolvangar, the sense of dread grew palpable. The stark, utilitarian buildings squatted against the snowy landscape, like a blight on the pristine Arctic. Lyra, using all her natural cunning and the guidance of the alethiometer, managed to infiltrate the station. What she found there would haunt her for years to come. Children, scared and subdued, their eyes dulled by the horrors they had witnessed, and worst of all, the intercision machine, a cruel device designed to sever the bond between child and daemon. In a heart-stopping sequence, Lyra found herself strapped to this very machine, Pantalaimon, screeching in terror as they were almost torn apart. It was only through her quick thinking and the timely arrival of her allies that she escaped this fate. The rescue of the children from Bolvangar was chaos incarnate. Alarms blared, scientists and guards ran in panic, and in the midst of it all, Lyra led the children to freedom. Auric and the Egyptians fought fiercely, while Lee Scoresby's balloon provided an escape route for many. But even as they celebrated their victory, Lyra learned that her friend Roger had been taken elsewhere by none other than Lord Asriel himself. The final leg of Lyra's journey took her to Svalbard, the kingdom of the armored bears. Here, amidst ice palaces and under skies alive with curtains of light, Lyra faced her greatest challenges yet. She witnessed Auric reclaim his rightful place as king, in a brutal combat with the usurper Ifer Ratnisson. The clash of metal on metal, the roars of the bears, and the cracking of the ice beneath their massive forms, was a spectacle both terrifying and awe-inspiring. And finally, in a lonely research station perched on the edge of the world, Lyra confronted Lord Asriel and learned the staggering truth about her parentage and the nature of Dus. Asriel's revelation shook Lyra to her core. The man she had known as her uncle was, in fact, her father. And Mrs. Coulter, the woman who had both charmed and terrified her, was her mother. But more shocking still was Asriel's ultimate plan: to build a bridge between worlds and challenge the very authority that ruled over all. As Asriel's machine roared to life, tearing a hole in the fabric of the universe, Lyra watched in horror as he sacrificed Roger to power his bridge. The sky split open, revealing a city hanging in the air, the same city Lyra had seen in the projector at Jordan College, what felt like a lifetime ago. In that moment, as Roger's daemon dissolved and the aurora blazed with unnatural light, Lyra knew that her journey was far from over. With Pantalaimon at her side, she stepped towards the bridge between worlds, ready to face whatever lay beyond. "Come on, Pan," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "We've got to find Roger. We've got to make this right." And so, with the weight of prophecy on her shoulders, and the alethiometer tucked safely in her pocket, Lyra Belacqua, daughter of Lord Asriel and Mrs. Coulter, friend of armored bears and witches, reader of the Golden Compass, took her first step into a new world and a greater adventure.